Our next game is Last Battle, also known as the Genesis Hokuto no Ken game, the Genesis Fist of the North Star.
Well,
game.
that would be the Mega Drive one, wouldn't it then?
The Genesis Mega Drive, yeah. So it was nominated by John Moran 9 on iTunes, who I have a suspicion might be Jacko Moran on Twitter. But I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah.
It was developed by... Yes, thank you for the 5-star review on iTunes. By the way, if you're going to be that asshat who writes a 4.5-star review and nominates a game, we're not going to humor you. It will not be discussed. In fact, it might be blackballed from the list forever. It's developed, I think, by Sega, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, that's because I can tell it was internal.
Well, they did everything for the early Mega Drive stuff. It was published by Sega for the Mega Drive / Genesis. Its earliest release date was July 1st, 1989 in Japan. And as I said, its Japanese title was Hokuto no Ken Shinseki Ura Kyusei Aruji Densetsu.
Better known as Fist of the North Star.
Better known as
like
Fist of the North Star.
New World something.
Now, to say something about this real quick, this came out in the U.S. as they did this a lot. There were at least 2 Fist of the North Star games.
They'd already done it with the Master System
version
of Fist of the North Star, which they just called, I think, Black Belt, right?
But it's even lazier this time because I think they kind of changed the names. They just kind of gave up after that.
It's all crazy because the Fist of the North Star was released on the NES in North America as Fist of the North Star because somebody had the crazy idea that Fist of the North Star was going to take off in Japan. It had, and that is, I believe, completely uncensored. It involves all the head exploding that the Famicom version was. But
oddly enough, I believe that this game is censored, even though
it is
Sega was supposed to be
super duper censored. Yeah,
not only is it censored, but half the cast is now green-skinned aliens for no adequately explored reason.
Yep. Yeah, it is. If you don't know about Fist of the North Star, I just want to say how lucky you are, and that you might want to stop listening now.
Jesus!
Wait until next week. No, I mean, Fist of the North Star is one of those weird late or mid 80s manga anime things. I think started out kind of tongue in cheek and then became deadly serious.
Yeah,
and it's kind
really
of like Mad Max meets Bruce Lee type apocalyptic future. It involves a guy who's a master of some kind of fake martial art that when you hit people, it's like the 5-point exploding palm death trick or whatever it is from Kill Bill, except it literally explodes your enemy. Usually they're cranium. The cool thing is that I guess when you look at the manga or the very faithful, at least visually, cartoon, when he hits people with his technique, their head starts like bulging, and you see like the veins pop out for a second, and then it just bursts like a balloon full of tomato soup. And
sadly, in the American version,
it doesn't happen in this game. In
the American version, just like kick them into space like Popeye.
So for the NES game, they could get away with it because they just kind of like exploded into pixel chunks, and that was kind of it. It wasn't any more graphic than what happens when you destroy like a Metroid or something in Metroid. Mm-hmm. In this game, although it does have like the kind of like bulbous like head pulsating head thing that it does do, I believe. So maybe a little bit more graphic. But with this one, what happens when you punch or kick an enemy is they just fly off the screen. It
needs a sound effect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically like Kung Fu or Spartan X or something like that.
It's like just kind of a belt scrolly fighter thing.
A literal belt scroller where you cannot move in anything other than forward or back, and they're just enemies that come charging at you. So, Tinga, I wonder whether you agree with me on this. Like, possibly the best game in this weird subgenre of like violence games or something. I don't know what you want to call them. Like perpetual violence games is probably, if you don't count the Retro Game Challenge DS game, whatever that was called.
The Mu Teki Ken Kung Fu.
Yeah, that one was the best one. Yeah,
love it. Yeah, definitely.
But if you count like original games like from the old days, I would say the best one is I just lost it. I was thinking about it and I lost it.
Oh man, dude, you're leaving me hanging. I do like.
No,
this.
I'm sorry. No, I lost it again.
No, darn it!
It was
the
it's
answer is
around the
Altered
tip of my tongue. It's not Kung Fu. It's not Altered Beast for sure.
Let's see. Let's see if I can help you piece it together. Well, it's not Splatterhouse, even if that's a personal favorite of mine.
That's a pretty close one, but it's not Splatterhouse. It's.
Can you at least describe?
No, I can't. It's gone.
Damn it! All right. Well, this is going to bug the hell out of me.
It was replaced by like an infomercial. It's like it's just part of my brain has been overwritten.
I do want to say one thing about this game I appreciate. I've been thinking about this for a little while, so I kind of feel like this game sort of has like a power fantasy thing going on. Like when you're in regular stages, enemies can barely like do a notch in your life bar. You just feel super tough, and you're just like kicking people into space all the time, and you feel really strong. And it's only really the bosses that can actually like really threaten you, and I think that's interesting.
The first boss you fight is a pushover. The second boss you can fight is like some weird like Cronenberg style like enemy, like a weird like Jabba the Hutt human-esque thing.
The first boss you
really
fight
hard.
is mutant Hulk Hogan.
Yes. Okay, so the game, so Tenga, this is why I was going to mention this. The game that I would say, like, if you really want to play a game that is basically exactly like this, except good, try the NES version of Capcom's Trojan.
Oh yeah, I really like Trojan.
Which is not a bad game. It's not a great game, but it's doing something.
It's very competent, and it has these little secrets here and there to get into that power you up, and it flows well. It's a short, nice after-dinner mint of a game to play.
Yeah, also the first of Capcom's NES coin-op conversions that actually adds something that adds depth to the gameplay.
Yeah, definitely.
It would have been... I mean, it is the first. It might not have been the first if they actually put out... Well, no. Did it predate Pirate Higemaru?
Oh, darn it. That I don't remember.
It might. It was
around the same time of Commando, which was also not a bad NES port, in my opinion.
Commando added a little bit, but it didn't add
not
a lot.
Substantial.
Trojan is basically a different game from the coin-op.
I was actually going to give
secret areas.
I was actually going to give my own recommendation for a Kung Fu type game, Ninja Warriors on the SNES, or Ninja Warriors again, as it's known as in Japan. That one is primo.
Or if you can play it, if you're willing to steal it or import it, Spartan X2 is pretty good.
Yeah, but like these games kind of operate on a very butt rock kind of hair metal power fantasy wavelength. Like they're not sophisticated, they are not complex, but you get to punch things sometimes real good, and sometimes they explode, or sometimes they fly off the screen. The comparison point that I keep coming back to for this one specifically, because it's an early Sega Genesis game, is Altered Beast. And I think it is better than the Genesis port of Altered Beast, but it is well below the arcade version of Altered Beast.
They are very similar.
It doesn't have like the memorability of Altered Beast. Like Altered Beast, like even the Genesis port has.
But when you punch people in Altered Beast on the Genesis, they just kind of turn into a couple sprites. Whereas when you're punching them in the arcade version, they're just like fucking exploding at you.
Right.
Like, and it's not particularly gory, but they're exploding at you in 3 dimensions, and it is great.
Cool.
I mean, I do think that there's kind of no real, Altered Beast doesn't exactly have, I would say, strong gameplay, but at least the function of kind of going from the Blando Man to a cool fantasy animal and then getting laser breath powers or
Speedo Man comes in between.
Yes, I mean, if that's your fantasy to be Speedo Man, that's you've got that intermissionary period.
Different strokes.
One of these kids really likes the Speedo Man.
But you also have the cool wolf transformation or whatever, where he's like, "Rawr," and then he becomes a wolf. Also. Whereas in Lost Battle, you're just kind of like, my shirt explodes, and now I can just punch a lot, and if anything, it's more confusing because you're now kind of weirdly stuck in place while he flails his arms around. Whereas at least in Altered Beast, you're kind of I can now kick all over the room with my magical wolf legs. That's, to me, that's more fun.
With Altered Beast has it's just more weirdness and more homoeroticism and more just the kind of stuff that just is something special you just don't see in games anymore. I'm not saying that was like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. I really mean that. Like that was deliberate in those games. And if you don't think it was, something is wrong with you. That's
I mean, like
they were
saw
doing.
Something in it. Like it was the pack-in game for the Genesis for
right.
like a while.
That was what it was. I mean, they were not.
Like
I don't know what else to say
that,
about it.
but
they're going with like this ancient Greece or whatever aesthetic.
Very.
Just like.
Well, we'll say this: it was very deliberately campy, whereas with Last Battle, not so much. I mean, it was just a new title and a couple edits to the game. Wasn't that great?
Yeah, Last Battle suffers from the fact that it's like it doesn't even have a context from being like a tie-in. It's just like, what is this? This is it's completely nonsensical. Did we actually mention the length of the intro? Because this is the most preposterous.
Oh, yeah.
Like, welcome to Star Wars times a billion, kind of like scrolling text.
It is a time of...
I want to say real quick.
Yeah.
I love this game's translation because it's so stupid.
Yeah, God.
Kenshiro has become Aarzak? What sort of shitty name is that?
With 2 A's, yeah.
Like, you encounter this woman in the first level, she's like, Aarzak, save the world! I must be the one to save the world!
I wish you had to play through every level to get those texts, because they're the best part.
That is true. It does have its own campy kind of value to it. I probably spoke too soon on that.
But,
and then you find this guy's like trapped in a concrete block, and R's like, I want you to help me.
He's like,
I hate that concrete block level. That's,
block guy.
This is where this game starts to, I think, especially to fall apart, is it's like, let's get a little fancy and present, like, areas that you have to go left and right and fall through holes and go spears, and it's all garbage.
It is very much like in the Kung Fu mold, too, because it has the weird, like, trap levels where it's just like a bunch of, like, it is literally a house of flying daggers.
Yeah, I appreciate to an extent that it's trying to do more than just go left to right, but these confusing I'm afraid to say that word because Xerxes is going to bash me for it, but...
Linear?
That one, thank you. I refuse to say it now. I don't know. The mazy-ish type levels, though, are only secondary to... the ultimate problem that none of us has discussed about this game. You only get one goddamn chance. No passwords.
Insanely difficult.
And it is. Oh my god, I couldn't even beat the first freaking chapter.
Like Bob mentioned that it's feels like a power fantasy, but by the time you get like 15 to 20 minutes into this game, you just instantly die, and you're just like, huh? Yeah. Like, what happened to my ripped man body? I've just been completely trounced.
Like, and it's only really bosses I know so actually do any real damage to you.
Right.
Yeah,
it's really hard to die in any other stage other than a boss.
It's kind of like China Warrior, another really bad Kung Fu-like for the time.
Man, you make that comparison, and now I do not feel very good about this game at all.
So this has a little more value than China Warrior, but there are far better of this mold. Like
the other good thing about this game is it has some pretty sick early Mega Drive tunes.
Yeah,
the music's not bad. I'll give it that.
I mean, if you're looking at this purely from like stylistically, it's like this is pretty good. Like I like screenshots, I like scrolling the parallax bits, I like the music, the graphics are nice.
I really hate how your kicks have no more range than your punches.
Well, the way the kicks work, right, is they break. There's like two projectiles. And one of them you punch, and the other you kick. And I think that's
there's like a waist level projectile and a crotch level projectile. For some reason, ducking and punching hits the waist level, but it will not scratch the crotch level. The crotch level projectile must be kicked.
Wow, that's something the game really should have probably bothered to explain.
It's not really called like Boot of the North Star. You know?
Codpiece of the North Star would solve a lot of problems in this game.
I think it would.
I throw all the daggers you want at this thing.
You can punch axes out of the air.
Unless someone has something else to say, can we just... Can we put this somewhere? Because this game bothers me a lot.
I think that this game, tried to do what you'd expect from a first-year Genesis title, but it falls on its face in several points. To say
I want to wrap this up by saying one more thing.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
Why was it so difficult for people to make a decent Fist of the North Star game.
Word.
You could have just made a beat 'em up with head explosions. Cut, print, done.
I will say the Sega Master System one was actually pretty good in my opinion. Like, nothing too special, but it was definitely the best of its time. The one that became a black belt over
The weird thing is they kept on doing Fist of the North Star games, and as Bob Mayer said, they were still doing the same like Kung Fu clone like in 1989. What is wrong with you? Like,
yeah. The only other
make a Golden Axe. If you just add exploding skulls to Golden Axe, it is a Fist of the North Star game. Like, just
I wish they just added exploding skulls to Golden Axe.
Definitely.
We're going to be ranking that one eventually.
They did have skeletons. The only other Hokuto no Ken game of note I can think of is the fighting game made by Arc System Works, and like
people like that. That's like the only really actually possibly good Fist of the North Star game I could think
I don't know.
of.
It's an art game from them. Like the art would probably be real good if nothing else.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I found it a little bit of a mess to play, but it's not bad.
Where are we going to put this one? Because it's not.
I got a range for you. Here,
it's pretty
let me
bad.
let me throw this out. Somewhere between Revolution X and Road Rash.
Well, it's worse than both of those games.
I honestly think it's worse than Firehawk.
It's worse than Technocop. It's worse than eSWAT.
It's not really.
It's worse than Road Rash. I don't know. I mean, is it worse than Ribbon? I think
I would put it like between Mega Man 02 and the New Zealand story.
Yeah, me too. Actually, that's about right. Like, it's not as good as Mega Man 02, which is not saying a lot.
Yeah. So you know what? Below the New Zealand story.
Yeah, that's true. New Zealand story has a cute bird in it.
Yeah, it's also a frustrating game, but I was able to get farther in it, so...
I have no mouth and I must scream. Like, I will say that Last Battle doesn't make me want to kill myself, so that is a plus. Whereas I have no mouth and I must scream.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's a feature, though, for I Have No Mouth.
I guess the failures of this really stupid game don't bother me as much as you guys, but I'm also not offended at all by you lowering it down.
How like what value does it have? That's the problem. Is it just not like there are even in that era of Genesis games or Mega Drive games?
I think this one kind of falls into the mediocre pit and maybe a little farther down because of how hard it is and how little chance it gives you.
If Altered Beast is the need to play this game, that is a huge criticism because Altered Beast is not great.
It's a great example of games for its time that really don't hold up very well.
Right. I mean, you should play Altered Beast. It's a lot.
Bonkers. At this point, you can play Altered Beast, the arcade.
This game doesn't even have like the exploding bloody head chunks. Like it robs you of even that satisfaction. What is the point? Like, yeah, seriously, like it is.
I mean, it even adds like confusing garbage stuff where you could because you can move around the world map kind of freely along paths. It's just like, what? Why even bother?
Actually, seriously though, I Have No Mouth. Underneath that is like King's Quest V, Friday the 13th for C64, which actually does something interesting with its garbage.
As I said, I already said I don't think it's better than Firehawk. I don't
either actually.
As
I would put it maybe below. I mean, I think its real competition is Eight Eyes, and
I honestly don't lowballing Last Battle for
Last Battle is like a bad version of an already not good game.
It does nothing different.
I will forever rather play Last Battle over Yoshi. So that's like the bottom for me is right below Friday.
Eight Eyes though. Eight Eyes. Would you rather play Eight Eyes than Last Battle? I kind of would.
I'd rather Last Battle.
I mean, Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball, just the name alone.
Wait, hang on.
Name alone.
I think
you are getting ahead of yourself. I think on that one. Like, I think.
If we're going by name, this list would be in reverse, and Bill Lambier would be at the top.
I'm just saying that Bill Lambier's only redeeming quality is the craziness of its name.
Yeah, the license.
Hey, wait, Last Battle has a crazy translation, and that's worth that. That's got to be
Last
something.
Battle is, I mean, Aarzak, great. Aarzak and Bill Lambier would probably throw down in an epic battle of craptitude.
Okay, Aarzak is a Dogs Bauer-esque character. Boom! Headshot!
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
I think you offended Xerxes with that one, Jeff.
No.
Okay, hang on. Let me just plop it down.
Aarzak would be flat on his ass after the first bong rip.
Okay, we really kept downvoting Last Battle, but I'm going to say definitively between Friday the 13th and Yoshi, maybe. Because
I agree, just because I don't want to talk about Last Battle ever again.
Yeah, Friday the 13th is at least fairly original in its premise.
It is original. It is a game that has value. It does something new.
Exactly.
You play the Commodore 64 Friday the 13th. You've seen something new under the sun. You play Last Battle. You've just seen like a bigger sprite version of NES system.
Basically.
Congratulations.
And it's kind of worse. Yoshi is Yoshi's very similar in a lot of ways.
Play Trojan. That's all there is to it. Play Trojan.